All right. Here we are at our kickoff call. I want to, thank and welcome you guys to being part of our beta group for AIO. And this is going to be cool. I've got some stuff I want to cover. The first thing really was just to welcome and thank you guys for being part of this because this is going to be a learning curve, as they all are, just like SEO. This is very, very similar. There's a lot of similarity to AIO and SEO. And I think that the people in AI learned a lot from the people in SEO, and many of them behind it are the same people. So a lot of the same rules are going to apply. And the factors, let me just talk about the factors for a minute of like the similarities between the two. SEO in the beginning was all about on code. That was it. Its whole thing was based on code optimization, the code within your site. And then as they got more complicated, more people like me figured out the code and was able to game the system, and they didn't like that. So they made changes. They adapted. It was like a war. It was an ongoing war between the search engines trying to protect their IP and the guys like me that wanted to game the system to own their IP. And that is what SEO was all about. It was a war. It was a cat and mouse game. We would do something that would get us good results. The search engines would see it, not like it, and change the rules. So it would knock us down. And that was the game since the very beginning. And as we get in, this isn't going to be like a full-blown official training thing. That will be coming. But this is kind of an overview, a recap, telling you what we're doing, how it works, and to get you started, to get you kicked off, to start playing with the stuff and testing. Because it's all about like testing is a big piece of SEO and AIO. It's you got to try stuff, see what works, and collectively as a group, I know there's only a handful of us on here right now, but there's going to probably be a couple hundred people testing this all collectively, feeding me back the results. And that's how I learned so much about SEO. It wasn't off of my own efforts. It was about a collective group that didn't really understand or know how to interpret what they were seeing, but they were all collecting data and feeding it back to me. And I could decipher it and uncode it and then basically guide the group moving forward. So that's how this group is going to be as well. You guys will all be doing this stuff, feeding me back the results, and I'll be able to decipher it and then bring it out to everybody. And we will all get the knowledge and we'll all get the benefit together. So that's kind of how this little testing beta group is going to work. And it's going to go on forever. It's just like SEO. If we were still playing the SEO game, it would be no different because they're always changing the rules and all of that stuff. So let's talk next a little bit about skill set. People are concerned with, what skills am I going to need for this? You don't need any coding skills. You're not going to have to learn how to be a coder, so you can put that worry to rest. But what you will have to do, and again, you don't really have to do this. You could have your web developer do this for you. You're going to need to add some code to your website. You're going to need to possibly alter some code on the website. And what I'm referring to is like this, it's the same thing for SEO. So if you've done SEO, you're probably very familiar with this. Things like changing the titles of pages to optimize them. Things like adding hidden tags like alt tags, meta tags, which include title tags, description tags, keyword tags, all of that stuff. I don't think keyword tags is going to be like a real key component. I just use that as an example because here's one of the differences between SEO and AIO. SEO relied strictly on keywords. You were optimizing for keywords, so when somebody typed in a keyword into a search box, the search engine would see you as the most relevant for that keyword and put you at the top. So that's how SEO worked. AIO is a little bit different. People are not going to an AI search box and putting in keywords. They're putting in conversations. They're putting in questions. They're acting as though they're talking to a human. And humans don't speak in keywords. We don't just blurt out a keyword and then look for an answer. That was only search engines. And we were the only reason we did that was because we were trained to do that. So with AI, this is going to be a much more natural process, which could be easier and it could be harder. I'm not really sure yet. But one of the things that you're going to have to do as far as content on your website, content is going to be very important. I mean, content was important with SEO as well because you had to have your content relevant to the keywords. But where content is going to be important in the AIO game is your content needs to answer questions. And I'm not just talking about FAQs, but FAQs are an important part of it. So when when you create the content and the files and the edits and things to optimize yourself for AI, there's a lot of different facets to it, just like there was a lot of different facets to SEO. And one of the facets, like I said, is answering those questions. Having content that is related to what your customers are going to be talking to the AI about. That's going to be really important because as the AI is scouring the internet looking for content and chewing it up to learn, you want to be the one that it's learning from. And if you have gobbledygook on your website, it's going to do the same thing the search engine did. It's just going to go, yuck. Yeah, I don't like that. And it's going to move on and look for something better. So creating that content and this goes back really to it goes back as far as the ACT program, figuring out who your customers are, what's important to them, what conversation is going on in their head, because that conversation going on in their head is going to translate to what they're talking to the AI about, even more than what they would talk to you in person about. That's why that mind reading is so important to really understand what's going on in their head. If you can figure that out, which you all know how to do now, and you've all got access to tools and quantum that can help you do that, you really need to pull that forward into your creation part of ACT and create content that addresses what's going on in their heads, addresses the questions. You know, a lot of those questions have to do with their objections too. So wrapping that content in, addressing their questions is going to do a lot for you. It's going to make them feel at home. It's going to make them feel comfortable. And it's going to also eliminate their objections at the same time. So there really is no downside to this. Yes, there's some work to do, but this is work that you should be doing already. This is work you should have done in the past. And I know most of you didn't, including myself. I can put myself in that elite group. So it's going to take, and just like SEO, SEO took effort. Anybody that thought SEO was just a freebie, just fall from the sky, they were wrong. And if they tried it, they found out they were wrong. If they were really patient, it took them a long time to figure out they were wrong. But I can tell you with no uncertainty, it takes effort to do this. You're going to have other people that are right alongside us, running for the finish line, trying to figure this out first. Those are going to be our competitors, and there will be many. Right now, there are few because if you talk to people about AIO, they'll say, what's that? They have no idea. Just like in SEO in the beginning, nobody knew what it was. I did SEO for literally for years before we even figured out what to call it. And that's where we are. History is repeating itself. So that's where we are in the process. So there's a lot of work to get done. We're going to have to roll up our sleeves and get busy with this. But the rewards here are going to be great. And if you look at like the people early on in SEO when there was no competition and you could get to the top and you could scoop all that traffic, those people made a lot of money. They sold a lot of products. They didn't have to, and this, I'm not going to promote this at all because this is not the right thing to promote, but they didn't have to convert very well to make a buck because they could get so much traffic. I don't want you guys to take that that tone or that angle. I want you to focus on conversion so every bit of traffic you get, you capitalize on. There's no reason to just go drive a shitload of traffic so you can have a crappy funnel and still make enough money. If you're going to drive a shitload of traffic, I want you to make a shitload of money. So the two have to meet, traffic and conversion. They always have. So don't think this is some magical, mystical miracle that you're going to figure this out and money's going to fall from the sky. It's not. You still have to treat every visitor that comes to your website as a prospect. And your job is to turn them into a customer. So this doesn't end with AIO and getting at the top and getting referred and getting a bunch of traffic. That's just the beginning. So with that said, I want to talk a little bit more about the opportunity because there's more opportunity here than just doing this for yourself. There's opportunity here to do this for others. And when I look at the opportunity in SEO, the greatest opportunity was in the beginning. It diluted fairly quickly, but I'll just tell you how this went for me. The big players, the big money came to the table first because nobody knew how to do it and it needed to you can't fight a war if you're not funded, right? So little guys they didn't have the money to fund fighting the war to figure it out, but the big corporations did. And that's who I brought on as my customers. They paid me a lot of money to go in and fight that war for them. And fighting a war, like I said, when it's heavily funded, is easy. Like if you need something figured out and you have a big enough pile of money, I'll come to the table and figure it out for you. And that's what I did. So that's going to probably be the same. Bigger companies are going to see the value in this. They're going to see the opportunity and they'll want to be first and they'll want to fund that. So if you want to work with those companies and you figure this out, you get a handle on it, or if you just go to them and say, hey, I've got access to tools, training to figure this out. Would you like me to figure it out for you? You can get them to pay you to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't spend my own money to figure out SEO. I spent their money to figure it out. And I was paid very well. To give you an idea, the budgets today for SEO are maybe, if you get a good client, you're in for a couple $1,000s a month. When I started, my clients were paying me $10,000 to $20,000 a month. No problem. They loved it. They were getting the results, all that. Everything was great. So, you get a handful of those and it adds up real quick. You can make a really good living. In fact, you can retire very early if you get enough clients paying you that kind of money. And you don't, if you're like me and you don't want to do the work, I don't mind working hard in the beginning to figure something out, but I'm not going to create a job that I have to work hard at. That ain't going to happen. As soon as I got the stuff figured out, the next thing I did was I went to work hard again to build a team to do the work. And I went to the Philippines to build my team. The Filipinos are really good at this kind of work. They're really good at menial tasks. So that might be what we do, maybe even collectively. Maybe we train a group of Filipinos collectively to do the work for the whole group. I'm open to that. I know how to do that. So that could be a potential possibility. Uh, but anyway, that is a big opportunity to offer the stuff for others. And I took so much guff over the years of people throwing mud in my face about, well, your site's not even optimized. And I'm like, really? That's a problem for you? If you're paying me, and this never came from the big customers. They didn't give a shit if my site was optimized. All they cared about was theirs was optimized. They could care less if mine was. In fact, it was to their benefit that mine was not, because the more people that I was doing this for, the more competition I was creating for them. So for me to be a hidden secret was a bonus. But where I ran into this was when the water started to get bloody and it started to come down, and I was working with smaller and smaller customers, which they're basically a pain in the ass. I'll tell you right now, when you start working for local businesses and they're barely making their rent and you're asking them to pay you a good amount of money to optimize that is like voodoo to them, they're going to be up your ass with a microscope looking for results, instant results, unrealistic expectations. And those are the ones that always were slinging mud at me. Well, why should I pay you to optimize my site when you can't even optimize your own? And my response was always the same. I said, my customers don't pay me to optimize my site. They pay me to optimize their sites. When you're paying me to optimize your site, would you want me to be focused on optimizing my site or your site? Which would you prefer? That was always my response. And some of them got it. Most of them didn't even understand that concept. So it's like, that is a prime example of working with the wrong customers. I can tell you, I've been in business, not just the majority, my entire adult and even into adolescent lifetime. And it probably could be claimed that I'm still in my adolescence. So the majority of my lifetime, I've been in business. I've been doing business with all sizes of companies. And this is something that I see a lot. I see people that will not go out and ask for these jobs or even offer these opportunities to companies until they feel they have education, until they feel they've hit milestones and have backing. Like I can't tell you how many think they have to have a degree hanging on the wall before they can offer their services. And one thing I can tell you, never, ever have I been asked, once I display that I can do what they need, never once by any level of company have I ever been asked what my credentials are. Not once. not ever. So if you think you have to have credentials and all that to be successful in supplying services to businesses, that's a farce. That's only in your head. If you can display and demonstrate that you can do what they need and they need it done and they want it done, they would rather go with you than someone with credentials that can't explain it to them in plain English. So I just want you guys to know there's no hurdles. There's no roadblocks. When I first offered these SEO services that I offered to these big companies, I didn't know how to do it. I'll be 100% honest. I had no idea how to do it. I knew some stuff, but it was their funding that was able to allow me to figure it out. So it's always, you've probably heard the thing, say yes and then figure it out. That's exactly how it works. If you go into this to offer this as services, which is the biggest opportunity, I mean, you can do it for yourself, and that's great. I know some of you, that's all you're here for, and there's no problem with that. No shame in that. It's a great thing to do it for yourself. But a lot of the people over the years that I've taught how to do this for themselves, they did it for themselves, and then everyone else wanted it from them. And they wound up building careers out of it. There is a lot of people that made a lot of money over a lot of years offering SEO services that I taught them how to do. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be no different. So that's the opportunity around it. So that said, let's dive in, and I want to actually get into the tool itself and just kind of go through it, give you guys a walkthrough. So I need to find my share. All right. You guys see the screen? I think you can. All right. You'll notice there's a lot of stuff here. You don't have to do all of this. In fact, you probably don't have to do most of this to see some results. And not every tool here is is for the exact optimization. It's not like you have to go through and you have to implement each one of these. There's stuff in here like keyword generators. Like I said, keywords to me, I don't think are going to be as important, but it is an optimization tool, and I put it in here anyway. You know, there's something here I didn't talk about yet. This is a code piece that you don't have to learn how to code, but you have to learn how to paste. If you don't know how to copy and paste, you need to learn that one. That's like your minimum viable skill set here. Because the LLM file that this will create for you, you need to paste that into the code of your website. And it's very similar to in SEO, we had a file called a robots.txt file. And what that file did was when the search engine came to your site and scanned your code, it looked to see if it had that robots file. The robots file gave it instructions. And the robots file said things like, these pages here that are listed are not important. I don't want you to spend any time trying to figure them out. They don't have to do with what my business is all about. Things like your policies. You don't need the search engine to be analyzing your policies to figure out what you do. That's a waste of its time. So that's what the robots.txt file was for. It was to tell the search engine where to focus, what to ignore. And that was very important. Most people didn't have that file. So the search engine is going through trying to figure stuff out. And the harder it has to work, the less it likes your site. So the LLM, that stands for large language model, it creates a large language model file. This is the equivalent of the robots.txt file and you put that into your code. So when the AI comes to visit your site, the AI will read that and it'll do the same thing. It'll tell it what's important about the site, what to ignore. It'll basically give it the lay of the land of how to consume your site. The other thing that it will do is it will immediately tell the AI engine that this site was made for it. This isn't just some site that doesn't care about AI, is not made friendly for AI. So if your site doesn't have that, chances are it's going to hit the site. It will consume what the user asked it to do. Like if you ask it, hey, go look at my site, analyze my site, and rewrite the content for me. It will do just that, but that's where it'll stop. If you do that and you have this LLM file in place, the search or the AI engine is going to see that first as it's consuming your page, and then it's going to know what else you have. It's going to be like a roadmap to your entire site. So it won't just look at the URL that you fed it and asked it to do. It's going to consume all of your content and it's going to learn what your site's about. That, in my opinion, is the key. When that gets fed into that large language model and it understands your site, it's now going to have learned I have a resource. When somebody asks about the things I just learned about, guess where it's going to point them, right? That is AIO in a nutshell. So all of these pieces, this is the key right here to this is them knocking on the door. Will you answer? If you don't have this, opportunity's knocking and you're ignoring it. So that is a key cornerstone component of this whole thing. If you're going to do nothing else, do this. The rest of the stuff is all ancillary to that. It's all optimization. Like, for instance, to optimize for Google, the last time I documented this, there was 64 factors that you could optimize your website for on-page optimization. 64 things that you could do. And the way I described this to the layman of how it worked, when they ask me, like, how do I get to the top? I would say getting to the top is a game like playing with an abacus. You've got all these rows of beads, right? Some of the beads have a higher value. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to slide as many beads as you possibly can to the right side to add your points up. Every one of the beads represents a thing that you can do that the search engine likes. Some things carry more weight. Some things carry less weight, but they still carry weight. But at the end of the day, whoever has the most weight on that abacus is going to win. There's 64 possible sets of beads you can slide to the right. And how many do you have to slide to win? That's a matter of who you're playing against in the game. You're going to have competitors that are doing their best to win. So they're sliding the big beads first, the ones that matter. This right here, in my opinion, is your biggest bead on the abacus for this game. That's the one you want to slide first, right? And then you start adding and adding and adding until you're unbeatable. That was where I like to be. I like to be in the unbeatable place because I don't know about you guys, but I won't play a game unless I can win it. I have no interest in wasting my time to do anything I can't win. So understanding the value of the beads became very important to me. Which ones are the biggest? Which ones can get me the maximum output for the minimum amount of effort? And this game is no different. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Outside of this LLM, I know intuitively that's one of the biggest beads. The rest of them, I don't know. That's what we're going to figure out together. So, where do you start? Anywhere you want. Everybody is going to be in this game together with us and feeding us back. Hey, I did these three and I got a result. Somebody else might say, well, I did these four and I got nothing. That's okay. It's all data, it's all information. Don't think you're wasting your time collectively feeding all this information back to me because it's all going to be valuable. Within a fairly short time frame, we should have this thing figured out. I should be able to come back to you and say, okay, here's the beads on the abacus. Here's the order to slide them. I just don't have that yet. So don't fault me for that. We're just starting to learn this game. So the faster that you guys can feed me the information, the faster I'll be able to tell you which beads to slide first. So notice you've got one here called FAQ Architect. That helps you create FAQ content for your website by analyzing what is out there. Semantic Relationship Mapper. This is basically like the internal linking game in SEO. And what I mean by that is when you create content, the content should be spiderable, which means it should be linked to other portions of your site. You don't want to just try and jam all your content onto one page. It's important to lay that out, to architect your site into like categories so it's easy for a user to consume. If you drop a user onto a page that looks like an index to an encyclopedia, that's not very useful to them. They're going to look at that and say, oh, hell no, and they're going to go somewhere else. If you drop them onto a page that gives them exactly what they want, and in the process of you giving them what they want, you're making them aware of other things that because you might know they want what they want, but they don't know what they need. Your job as a professional is to bring them in for what they want and then lead them to what you know they need. Don't try and jam it all on one page. Put those pages of those other things on their own, specific to their topic. Answer all the questions specific to that topic on each individual page. That's the name of the game. The internal linking gives them the links and the content that they think they wanted, linking them to the content that you know they need. That's how you play that game. So that is and there's several modules in here that have to do with that structure. The semantic relationship mapper is one of them. Intent harmony, that's another one. Um, you've got a bunch in here. There's also, as you're going through these tools, you're going to notice there is some overlap. And when I say there's some overlap, there's a lot of overlap. If you just pick like one of these tools, any one, and you do it, it's going to give you an output. It's going to give you recommendations and it's going to give you some basic instruction. It's not going to go deep into instruction. It's just going to give you the output and say, put this in your head tag or add this to the content, whatever. It's going to give you some basic instructions. But you'll notice if you go to another tool, some of the stuff that it gives you might be a duplicate of what you already have. And that's okay. You just need to understand that. You don't need to put it in twice. Also, what you'll find is AI never typically gives you the exact same answer. If you ask it the same question twice, you'll notice it could give you completely different answers. This is no different because it's AI on the back end. These are all GPTs that I've created to solve specific problems in optimization for AI. And I got this list from AI, by the way. I wish this was around when I was learning SEO because it would have been a whole lot easier. In the beginning, I went to AI and I said, what is the process of optimizing a website for AI consumption and learning? And it gave me a whole encyclopedia of what was involved in that. And then I said, if I were to want to make GPTs to do all of these things that you've outlined, could you provide me a list? Well, this is the list that it provided. So whether it's 100% true and accurate or not, I don't know yet. That's what we're going to figure out. I'm sure every one of these will be helpful and useful for sure. But do we need all of them? Probably not. Like I was talking about in Google specifically, there was 64 different beads that could be moved across the abacus. In no event ever did I move all the beads. I only moved enough to get to the top. Whatever it took, I kept moving the beads till I got my client to the top. And then I came up with a phrase for the people I was teaching SEO to of when to stop. Because I had people that were already number one and they were going in and they were just overkilling it. I'm like, you don't need to work that hard. Like you've already won. And the phrase that I came up with is you can stop shooting the elephant when it's dead. You know, when you've killed it, you can stop shooting it. Be happy. Go on. Kill another elephant. Pick another keyword. In here, it's going to be pick another phrase. Optimize for another phrase. As I was talking about the pages, adding pages to your site for things that you know your customers are going to need, or you know your clients' customers are going to need, that's going to be a game of figuring that out. Figuring out, what keywords, and then from the keywords, what content needs to be done. And a lot of these tools will do that. Like you've got over here, you have an AI content optimizer. That will basically take those and optimize content for you. The structure optimizer should tell you how to separate all the gobbledygook and create the structure of your site. The AI SEO analyzer and strategist, that's another one that helps you strategize what to do. The AI Search Pro, this is kind of a basic generic tool that, like, if you just wanted to start and dip your toe in, you might start with that one. It'll give you kind of some broad strokes to do, and then you just keep on digging in. Schema, you guys, if you've done any kind of SEO, you've probably heard about schema codes. At the end of the SEO game in my career, schema codes have been around forever. But at the end, it was like that was one of the beads on the abacus that got very large. That was really important. So this AI schema generator generates additional lines for the schema code that have to do with AI. They're specific to the AI engines. So again, this is another part of your code that when the AI engine visits your site and it sees that, it's like instruction to the AI that you've landed on a site that was built with AI in mind. We're helpful. We're friendly. We're AI friendly to help you do your job. It's going to like that. Just like the search engines liked when you made it easy for them to figure out what your site was about, what keywords you should rank for. So that's kind of the lay of the land here. There's a community tab. What this is for you guys to interact with each other. This is where you can share information. If you go into the community, you can basically start a post. It's empty right now because we're just starting out. but you could share a post. You could say, hey, I used the AI optimizer, and here's what happened. Here's what I liked. Here's what I didn't like. Here's what it did. Here's what it didn't do. Sharing the information amongst each other, and then other users can go in and see what you've done, and then they don't have to do that. They could go and they could go to another tool and test it. And collectively, this is how we're all going to share together in the community. And then I'll be coming in from time to time, going through that and putting my little pea brain on it to tell you what I think it all means and help you decipher it and put it together into context. So that community button, that's how we'll all share together. The This is an interesting one that we put in here, the AIO lead flow. And what this is, we have figured out a way to identify people that are looking to get this stuff done. Most of these are those bigger companies that I was talking about. It shows their monthly budget, and it shows if they're currently working with, this is an AEO agency. All it is AI engine optimization. I like to call it AIO, but some of the developers threw in some AEO too because they think they're smarter than I am. Hopefully, I will prove them wrong. So, anyway, these are actual contacts. And when this person filled out a form requesting information about how to get this done. So, some of these, this is from March 15th through April 23rd. So, this stuff gets rotated and brought in here from time to time. So those are basically leads for you if you want to go out and dip your toe in figuring out, are these people really willing to pay for this stuff? This tool here is a proposal generator. What you can do here is you can drop a prospect's URL in here, or you can drop your own in here, and it will generate a proposal. It's going to analyze the website, figure out what it has and what it doesn't have, and it's going to basically put a proposal together. So you could go to this chiropractic business and say, hey, we ran an optimization analyzing tool on your site. Here's what we discovered. And it will give them an overview of all the things that are important and what they need to do. And what you can do on this is you can say, if I were you, I would give this to your web developer and have them optimize your site for you. And in about 3 seconds, what they're going to do is they're going to say, could you just do that for me? Because most of them don't have a web developer that could do this. Most of them don't even know who built their site. They're just going to want you to do it for them. So if you go down, it also gives a cost overview to implement the stuff. Now you can edit this. This one is recommending a $1,500 setup fee and $500 a month for this small local chiropractor business. You could go in here and you can change this, because all you're going to do is you're just going to copy this information, paste it into a Word document with your letterhead on it, and send this to the business. So that tool is built in there for you. You'll also notice any of the tools that you go to, if you're like looking at this dashboard going, oh my God, I don't know what any of this shit does. That's okay. You're in good company. We're all, like I said, we're all figuring it out. But what I've done to help you is when you click on the tool, here's a description. Ultimately, Brady's learning this stuff along with everybody else. As he figures out things, he'll probably be putting tutorial videos together just like he did in Quantum. And then you'll have a little button up here to click on that'll give you a tutorial video for each tool. We're just not there yet. So this is the description of what the tool does. So you could click on any of these and you could see just a general overview of what this tool does and then what you have to put in to get it to work. Like here, you're going to put in a URL of a web page. The topic keyword that you feel is important, keyword or topic, the industry niche that it's in, and if applicable, the location. If it's a local business, definitely put in the city. If it's a business that only operates in the US, put the USA or United States. If it's not applicable, just leave it blank. All of the inputs that have a star, those are required fields. It won't run without something in there. But here you'll notice there's no star, so you could leave that one blank. So that is pretty much the lay of the land here to go through. There's one thing here that I didn't mention. There's a couple of folders. One of them here is a folder that has specific tools. These tools are for generating content. The other tools are more broad overview, more for code of the pages, analyzing, strategy, all of that. Once you get once it lays out your site and it says, here's how you categorize the site, here's your structure, these are all the pages you need. Then you can come back in here and you can create content in here for them, for those pages. So if you need to create content for e-commerce pages, if you need your service page optimized with content, this is just a general content optimizer. This is for optimizing for blog posts. This is for FAQs, to optimize your FAQs for any given page. I would recommend, honestly, putting an FAQ on each page for each subject matter. Don't try and just like most people have one FAQ that covers their entire site. I wouldn't recommend that. I would put an FAQ on every page you've got. This is one that optimizes homepage content because just like the search engines have an idea what your site should be structured like, so does the AI engines. So these tools are to help you generate content that says, I'm built for you. You should like me. So that's the content generator folder. And then here is how to optimize for your social media profiles. This is more of what's considered off-page optimization. In SEO, you had on-page, which is all the code on your site, the content on your site, and then off-page was how the rest of the world felt about it. So it's kind of like a popularity contest. So in the AI space, I haven't really noticed that it follows links, and it doesn't like follow links and spider the web like the search engines do. So what it does do is it looks for authority. And as best as I can tell, it's looking to attach authority from all the social media sites. So when you have a site and it's connected to all your social media, or your social media, even better, your social media is connected to your main website, that's putting that authority and that ownership of, oh, okay, this business over here that I'm finding is attached to this website. And when all of those things attach to the same website, that creates what is called an EAT score. This EAT, you might have heard that. They're actually percolating this into SEO. It's been around for a long time, but they didn't refer to it as EAT. And what this is, it's expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. That's what EAT stands for. And that's your off-page optimization. It's how much can the the AI engine trust what it's finding. If it just finds it on your website and it doesn't find any documents to support that, that's a very low trust score. But when it finds all these external references to ensure that it's right and accurate, that's how you gain trustworthiness. So that's what the EAT Authority Builder is all about. And in regular SEO, you did that through citations, which was getting your listing of your address correct according to Google, and then making sure that all the variations of where that address showed up across the entire internet matched exactly. Like if you had avenue spelled out and Google thought avenue should have been AVE, and it's showing all these different spellings of it all over the web, all of a sudden it doesn't trust it. It's like, well, I thought this was right, but I see all these different variations, so it brings uncertainty. And that's where the EAT Authority Builder will help you create that expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So if you see it in search engines, it's starting to gain traction with them as well. So any questions? There's a lot of stuff here to unpack, and I didn't want to like take all day today to unpack it. I just want you guys to know what you've got, what your job is. Your job is to explore, learn, report, and I will help analyze.
Hey,
So,
John. For about a month now, I've had a whole heap of trouble trying to figure out what the hell's going on with my website. I've checked the host, I've checked the um it's GoDaddy, the whatever they are, and I'm just I have no idea. I just really don't know what's going on. I've tried everything I can think of. Any ideas on where to go, who to ask to
well,
get it back online?
I have no context really to that, but let's keep this call specific to these tools.
You got it.
I'm happy to help you. Just shoot me an email with anything outside of this.
Okay,
But
because
I
this got to
want to,
work before any of this stuff can work.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I get that. But I want to keep this particular training to the object at hand.
Sure.
We could get into all kinds of other stuff, but anybody got any questions as to like what this is, what they need to do next?
I do.
Okay.
Um, so where do we go to log in and
So,
set our password? Because I have not been in yet.
okay, so it's AIOdominator.com is where the application lives. If you don't, well, you should be able to reset your password just by going to AIOdominator.com. If you do have any trouble with it or whatever, just shoot me an email or put in a support ticket, and we're happy to get you in and get you up and running. So another thing here is alt tags. A lot of people don't do alt tags, and alt tags are important for a couple of different reasons. Alt tags were originally created for ADA compliance for blind people. Believe it or not, blind people look at websites. They look at it with a braille reader. And obviously, blind people can't see your images. So, an alt text is a text that's attached to your image. So, when they roll over the image, it tells them what they're looking at. So, that's what its function is. And in search kind of took the aspect of, well, if you have not built your site compliant, we're going to kind of give you a negative score on that aspect. And again, that's one of those beads on the abacus that not only carries weight to the right, it can remove weight to the left. So that's something like if you don't have that, that's a negative against you. So that could that could actually remove some of the positive that you've done if you don't have that one. So there's not a lot of these that carry negative weight, but alt is one of them. So I would pay attention. All of the images inside your website should have alt text to them. And this tool will help you do that. If you upload the image and you give it a basic description, the image URL, the tone, keywords, it will generate an alt text tag for you that's optimized for AI. So you should be doing that with all of your images, or I would say at least your main images, but these engines don't know the difference between a main image and just something like an image that's aligned to separate something on your website. They don't understand there's a difference. If the line image doesn't have an alt text, it's just going to say, oh, well, they've got images that I don't know what they are. The site's not compliant. And again, that's a negative score. So all images inside your website, no matter how small or irrelevant, should have alt text. And here's a little trick that we as SEO professionals used in our advantage was we would put all kinds of irrelevant images into a web page so we could seed content in so the search engine would see it and say, oh, wow, this thing's packed with good information. Even though it might just be a bullet, a graphic of a bullet, and you got 50 bullet points on the page. Well, that's 50 opportunities for me to inject what I want it to see. And the customer doesn't see it. It's hidden. It's hidden in the code. So it's a way to optimize the site that the viewer doesn't see, which is kind of sneaky. You can optimize, under the radar by using alt text. I actually, in the very beginning, I created a very evil piece of code for a website that most people never figured out, but I still see it used today. I was the creator of it, and it's called the Phantom GIF. If you ever look at code of a website and you search for Phantom and it has a Phantom GIF, that was from my influence. It was a one by one clear pixel GIF that could not be seen. It had no background, it had no content. It was just a clear one by one pixel square. That could be dropped anywhere into a web page and it could carry all kinds of data with it that couldn't be seen or recognized other than by a search engine. It was the Phantom GIF. And it could be used for all kinds of things.
John, have you any suggestions as to a sequence of tools that we should be addressing first, or those that are perhaps most important to you and that you're most curious about getting data about?
Well, I don't really have a sequence yet. I mean, basically, if you take these two out, these are kind of profilers.
Yep.
But if you start with this one, all of these we should be looking at.
Okay.
Like I said, this one here is like number one. So if you were only going to do one thing, I would create that LLM file and put that in your website.
Mm.
Schema, because of the importance of schema, I would say this would probably be another one that you don't want to overlook. Alt text, again, it's such a basic thing. If you wanted to start with the basics, I would say those three right there. If you want to really start, getting into the nitty gritty, you want to start with, stuff like the basic AIO, AI Search Pro, the SEO Analyzer and Strategist. Structure of your website is going to be important to figure out early on. And then I might jump over here to the architect, the FAQ architect. And then the authority builder,
Mhm.
semantic relationship mapper, the content optimizer. Again, that goes with these content optimizers as well. They're just kind of more specific tools. If you get all of that dialed in, which you know
Right.
it's a lot. This
Yeah,
is
no
this
kidding.
is this is a lot to chew up for anybody. If that is all dialed in and you're like, I'm an overachiever, I want to go all the way, then you can go into voice search. This
Hmm.
will put stuff in that will attract the voice search to you, which that's a whole nother
Yeah,
important piece.
interesting.
You
Hadn't
know,
even
so
thought about that one.
so that's the stuff for your site. And then, like I said, you can start off-page optimization. That's when
Okay.
you go into the EAT. That's the EAT tool where you're going to create authority from outside external sources, and you're going to use your social media profiles as a big part of that. So I know,
Okay.
I,
I'm
I
glad
know,
I asked.
I know with no uncertainty, I have overwhelmed and confused the shit out of a lot of
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
But
That's okay. It's a challenge.
it's like anything else. Everything looks hard before you've done it.
Yeah.
This stuff is all easy. This is all, there's nothing here that you have to like really figure out. This is all just, a big palette to paint by the numbers, and there's no right or wrong at this point.
Okay.
It's a matter of us collectively doing this and seeing the results, and we will get there.
Okay.
So the other piece to this is one piece of this whole puzzle.
Mhm.
There's another piece which we have a whole completely different software program for, which is to send the actual user signals in to help train the AI. We're not sure how effective it's going to be,
Mm.
but it's a version of our SitePop software that we've been using for years very effectively to train Google and Bing and other major search engines on who belongs at the top based on the user interaction of the websites. And we're reformatting that, and we're rebranding it under the name of Rainmaker to do the same thing for the AI engines.
Got it.
And to give
That's
you,
way over my head right now.
yeah, I would focus on this first, but
Sure.
I know a lot of people that are getting into this have had our SEO software for years, our SitePop software.
Okay.
And for those that have that and are going to jump into that as a beta tester, we're going to add the AI component for free. So all of our customers that are SitePop customers and users, they're going to get the upgrade for free. It's going to be part of their program. They're not going to be charged any more for it. Whatever they're paying now, they're just going to get it. And it's going to be a huge bonus.
Yeah.
Now they're probably going to want to jump over here and get this as well because the two are companions.
Mhm.
You don't
Okay.
have to start with both of them. You can start with, I would say, really, this would be a good one to start with because you need to get your site, you need to get your house in order before you start sending traffic to it. And the Rainmaker is basically going to be sending traffic to it.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Do you want a separate email on, my site is with you?
okay.
And if I make some changes or want changes made, how do we do that? I know I've lost my connection to Beaver Builder, so
Okay.
that might be one of the first things. And I think that's out of the scope of this discussion. So maybe I'll just send you an email
Yeah,
and take it from there.
yeah, shoot me an email. You will need access to your site, whether you guys are
Yep.
hosted with me or hosted elsewhere. You will need to get access to edit your sites or access to your web developer who will edit it for you. And you could just simply give them the instructions and let them do that. But you definitely will need to get access to your sites for this to work.
Oh, for sure.
So good stuff. Here's another part of the opportunity. This might be good for some of you and not so good for others. Um, I'm not going to offer this as a service as I did in SEO. So for those of you that wanted me to do it for you, unfortunately, you're out of luck. I'm not going into that business. I've already beaten that horse to death and I'm done. Uh, but on the other side, that opens a massive opportunity for you to do the services for others because you won't be competing with me. I don't want to compete with you. I want that to be an open opportunity. I will be there to support you and guide you and help you to, because I've run an SEO agency for over 20 years. I know how to run that business and I'm happy to help you run yours. I've helped a lot of people do that. If it's interesting, I was at one of Dory friend that runs a big SEO Rockstar event. And I was at one of her conferences and we were eating lunch and it was a round tables. There's 10 people at a table. And I didn't know anybody at the table. I was sitting to eat lunch. And I heard a conversation on across the table from me at my table. And they were talking about this guy that taught them the business and how successful they'd been. And his name happened to be John Limbacher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And, I had my name tag on even. They hadn't looked at it. And I'm like, and I jumped into the conversation with them. And then one of them recognized my name tag and went, holy shit, this is the guy.
This is the man.
So it was pretty funny.
Hey, John, so what do you think the process is going to be here, or what would you like to see? Like, say we go through this and we start having questions. Are you wanting individual emails? You want everything put in that community area so everybody sees what's going on back and forth, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I would say the community is a good place to do it because that way you don't have to wait for me specifically to answer. Somebody else might already have the answer for you. So I would say the community section is good. And also that'll help because if I happen to be the one that goes in there and answers it, then everyone else can see the answer too.
So we could actually have the ability to answer other people's questions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can comment to another. I would ask you guys, please keep the chatter out of that thing. It's not a place for you to say, "Hey, how you doing? What'd you have for lunch?" Don't, yeah, just don't put any of that kind of crap in there. Ask a question, answer a question. Please keep it to that because I want it to be useful. I don't want somebody to have to go in there and spend a half hour reading through junk.
I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Did
I've
you
been on the spot since the day I was born.
I know, and you're very good at it. So I wouldn't do it if you weren't. So when I was on the boat, I went through and I blew through all these and I documented what I initially found and then I sent it to you. Did that help at all? Did you see anything? Or did you not even look at it yet?
I haven't even got to it yet,
So,
honestly.
okay.
I've got it on my desktop. In fact, it's on my desktop on the boat.
Oh, but you haven't been back to the boat.
Oh no, I go to the boat all the time. It's just if
Not
I
up there in the boat.
if I dug into it before I was actually ready for it, like if I had dug into it when you gave it to me, the day you gave it to me, and then come on here, I wouldn't have remembered any of it. So I need to like log it when I'm in that mode, and then it's meaningful.
Okay.
Because I know
That's
you
fair.
put a lot of work into that. I want it to be meaningful when I chew into it.
Okay, that's fair. Another note, I came across a guy that's big on SEO for Shopify. So I have a Shopify store. My store is for e-commerce. He is talking about a lot of similar things that you're talking about here
Uh-huh.
in SEO and allowing the site to crawl for AIO. He's talking about schema and things like that. So anything that I find on there, I would be glad to share it with the group. But not that
Okay.
anybody else has Shopify, but it might be helpful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's don't get the idea that no one else is onto this yet.
No, there's a lot of people starting to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to become a conversation of topic. I really should have jumped on this way earlier because, as you know, I've had these tools built for several months now, and I'm just finally getting to the point where I can dig into it. But we're not first to the plate, but that doesn't matter. We're still really early on. It's going to be years before this becomes, common knowledge.
Mhm.
So you guys are going to get a huge advantage, a huge head start. And if you're going to build, for anybody that's going to build an agency out of this, that huge start is worth a fortune. Because at some point, like when everybody had SEO, it was almost impossible for you to get customers because they had already had either had somebody or they had a bad experience or something, but it became really difficult to get a customer. And it's just like in web development. In the beginning, websites were magical. Everybody wanted one, nobody knew anything about them. You showed up, all you had to do is say, I build websites. And they say, can you build mine? Sure. It was that easy to get a customer. But advance that down to when everybody had a website, you say, hey, do you need a website? No, I already have one. Very difficult to get them to understand. Well, you might need another one. No, I really don't.
I got a question.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. When I present this to a customer and they say, like how they said SEO to see results, it took 90 to 6 months, maybe a year to get the
Huh?
results you want.
Yep.
Okay. With this AI, and they ask me, how long is it going to take me to get results? What is a fair amount of time to add the request?
There's really no solid answer for that yet. Nobody's going to be able to answer that. We're going to be able to answer that based on us doing it. As far as like in SEO, I got that question all the time in SEO. And if it came from a customer, the thing that I would tell the customer that would gain a lot of confidence in me was anybody that gives you a definitive answer to that question, you should grab your wallet and run because they're just ripping you off. They don't know, they can't tell you, and they probably don't even know how to do it to begin with because that's the only reason they would give you that answer. So that gained a lot of confidence and trust in me when I would answer in that way. And then I would also say, I can tell you, here's the factors that are going to affect how long it's going to take, how many people are ahead of you, how many people are competing, how much we're going to have to do to overcome them, and how long it's going to take for us to build that ladder. The more honest that you are and transparent with them, the more likely they are to trust you and want to work with you. And also, it's really important that you set proper expectations. If they have it in their head that they think this is an overnight thing and you don't correct them, you're going to have problems. You're going to have what I call a come to Jesus meeting with them eventually. And I'll do anything to avoid one of those because I just have no interest at all in sitting at the table for a come to Jesus meeting. So I hope that was helpful, although it was not very informative, but it's how to address that question because it will come up. It'll definitely come up. And really what you're doing is they're paying you to go in and figure out what they're up against. That's part of what you're going to do. If they've got people ahead of them, you're going to go in and you're going to start moving those beads on the abacus until you figure out what it takes to move the needle and what it takes to overcome the guy that's ahead of you. That's the best that you can do. And I never told any client anything but that. And I did really well. So hopefully that helps. I've got a couple of people that started digging into this stuff real early on, and they're already off to the races with selling it. And the feedback that I've got from them is there's not too much competition in this, and they're getting results fairly quickly. I haven't really like ground them to the stone to see what that means, what this fairly quickly mean, but to these type of people, fairly quickly is like within the same month. So I would think that by doing some of these things, we might see results pretty quickly, like within a month time frame. I can't guarantee that by any stretch of the imagination. And again, if you're doing it in a field where others, even if there's only a few, see the difference here is with search, you had 1 in 10 on a page. If you did something and you got a result, you could be possibly 1 out of 10 to get to the first page. With AI, when you ask the question, sometimes it's only going to give you one answer. Sometimes it'll give you 2 or 3 options to choose from, but it's not going to give you 10 unless you specifically ask for what's the top 10. So this is a much narrower bar to hit the target. You've either got to be the one it recommends or you're out. So in that aspect, this might be more competitive, but take advantage now of the head start that you've got and lock in your position because when you're locked in, if you to stay locked in is easier than to climb over someone that's locked in. So good stuff. All right. Well, this went a lot longer than I had anticipated. I thought we were going to do this for about a half hour, and we're at an hour and a half basically at this point. So, any other questions? I just don't want this to go too long. I'm going to do a lot more in-depth training as we get into it, but I wanted this to just kind of be a broad strokes overview and give you guys permission to go and, play with this and do your thing. And there's no right or wrong. You're not going to hurt anything. So, one more thing before we wrap up. Most of you are on WordPress sites. I know Russ has a Shopify site that's a little bit different, but most of you are on WordPress sites, and you probably are going to need a plugin in the WordPress site to make access to the code easier. They have a lot of SEO plugins. One of the biggest ones is Yoast. Yoast is a big SEO plugin. There's another really good one called All-in-One SEO. And there's another one, I forget the name of it. It's one that Herc Magnus runs. Russ, do you know which one I'm talking about? You have it on your site.
I remember, and I reached out to him to see if it worked for Shopify, and it doesn't, but I forgot the name of it.
Okay. It's an oddball name.
It was a weird name, yeah.
But anyway, I will get that. I'm gonna actually reach out to Herc and see if we can cut some kind of deal for our members. Um, but he's got one and he's got some AI that he's actually building into it, which might be helpful for us. So I'll reach out and see if I can get some kind of a deal for our members and see if we can get that available for you guys. So, but you will need, if you're WordPress, you will need some kind of a plugin because you don't want to go in and try and edit the code. That's a nightmare to begin with, and then anytime you update, it's going to erase all of your custom code. So I would not recommend that.
All
Go
right, John,
easy.
appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
stuff.
Thank you guys all for showing up and being part of the journey.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good weekend.
All right, we'll be back with more in-depth training very soon. So,
Sounds good.
all right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.